Hi there, it's Leanne and this is my presentation for EDUC1050's Assessment Task 4. As Bill Gates once said, technology is just a tool. In terms of getting the kids working together and motivating them, the teacher is most important. Curating, collaborating and creating with ICT within EDUC1050 has illuminated why incorporating technology into my teaching pedagogy is so crucial to my students and my individual success. With the right approach, I have been shown that I can enrich my content and pedagogical knowledge by using ICT. In turn, this creates what is called TPAC. Throughout this course, this was one of the most reoccurring themes. I believe this theory is of great significance. If an educator can understand their learning area well enough to incorporate ICT into their pedagogy, it can construct endless possibilities for both the educator and the learner. Not only this, we were encouraged to experience co-op learning by participating in group assessments. This introduced us to new ICT platforms that we had never used before, and I will certainly take away some of these to use in my future teaching. The most important concept I personally learned is that we have to think of learning as a part of everyday life, which involves participation, collaboration and dialogue, and the construction and critical use of intelligent tools and artifacts, as these support alternative frames of schooling and lifelong learning with ICT. As future teachers, we were then asked to imagine our own context for a Year 10 classroom. Personally, I chose the learning area of science, focusing specifically on biological science ACSSU 184 and 185. This topic covers the concepts of evolution alongside genetics, and I believe would be best taught within a class of no more than 20 students. As Caroline M. Hoxby notes, class size reduction always affords opportunities for increased investment in each child's learning. The demographics I decided to address were that of age, sex, intelligence and religion. Age is somewhat out of my control as Year 10 students in Australia are generally aged between 14 to 16. Ideally, I would like a somewhat equal split between genders as male and female brains learn differently, as does every individual. Alongside this, different levels of intelligence are also unavoidable among students. This, however, would be a healthy challenge to market my teaching pedagogy in a way that would keep all individuals engaged, whilst also being beneficial for the students as they get to work in groups that have different learning styles. Having different religions within the classroom is also inevitable. However, when learning about topics such as science, different opinions can make for interesting class discussions that can assist in every child's learning. In addressing ICT accessibility, it is important to recognise that not all students have the same socio-economic background, and therefore cannot always afford their own device. When I was in high school, our year level was included in a laptop scheme, where we as students were each loaned a laptop for use. Ideally, this would be something I would love to have employed, as it would give each student equal access to the ICT being used. If not feasible, I would hope there would be a laptop or iPad trolley that would be able to be loaned for the duration of the class. Alongside this, printouts of information accessed on ICT in class can be given to the students to take home if they need to access it later. Following on from ICT accessibility, we were asked to suggest some ICTs that we believe address and help build the Level 6 investigating with ICT capabilities. As science is all about investigating, the most important ICT tool I would hope to incorporate would be the use of iPads. This mode of learning opens so many doors within education in the use of both internet and app access. This image explores the way in which using iPads tends to learners' needs, as well as helping them to explore the topics covered in class. Alongside the use of iPads, it is crucial to understand that learning often takes place without teaching. I would wish to give my students access to resources they could use to learn at their own pace, which would help to promote self-directed learning. This would be most helpful to students when researching for assessment, while also giving them the opportunity to have a second look over class topics. In saying this, I believe the Evolution Lab is an incredible source for Year 10 science students. It addresses the need of visually appealing content that is also interactive, whilst allowing them to build on their Level 6 ICT capabilities. I believe this helps to combat the issue made in a statement by Fisher and Sugimoto. In the standard instructionist classroom environment, students are generally unable to see the relevance of that they learn because the material presented is disembodied from everyday experience. With research often comes the compilation of information for assessments. As it is essential for students to form positive co-ops during their education, it is important they apply themselves to their shared work to encourage progress. As Etienne Wenger states, communities of practice often learn better as they interact regularly. To To encourage this interaction between classmates, I would adopt the use of online collaborative platforms such as Google Docs and Padlet. These ICT tools give students a means to communicate outside the classroom, as they are known to interact with subject content, transforming and discussing it with others in order to internalise meaning and make connections with what is already known. I believe it is essential that work can be monitored in real time. Therefore, platforms such as these make it possible for myself to see the work that students are producing, whilst also answering any queries that may appear. This creates another co-op environment that encourages participation alongside feedback. The most common issue with using TPAC are the numerous challenges educators can face. I believe the most common ones include that of student motivation and skills, and my own attitudes and skill sets. As there is no situation of pure knowledge symmetry and there are no two individuals in the world with the same knowledge, it is impossible to predict how a class will adapt to the introduction of ICT. Many may love the idea, however, there will always be some students who are less skilled and therefore less confident. To battle this, I would use ICT such as Padlet, as they promote an anonymous ground from which students can express their struggles to each other or myself. I could then easily type a response onto the Padlet indicating my suggestion to the proposed problem. Not only this, within group assessments, I would group less skilled students with those that are more confident with ICT, in hopes that through their co-ops they would engage with and assist each other where need be. Regarding my own attitude towards ICT, it is easy to admit defeat when attempting to navigate a new ICT platform. However, it is important to stay motivated as a role model to the class. As ICT is continually upgrading and advancing, it is a necessity as an educator to advance alongside it, striving to learn new strategies and technologies for classroom use. As the Level 6 Investigating with ICT capabilities describe, students must demonstrate their ability to find, access and evaluate data and information. To assess these abilities on pure knowledge, there would be a report on evolution assigned. This report would show students self-directional learning knowledge, as they would be required to sift through resources to acquire the information they need. They would also be asked to discuss and evaluate this knowledge within their paper. Alongside this, I would employ the use of Kahoot during my lessons, as students would be asked to form co-ops of 3 to 4 students to take weekly quizzes on our class content. During the week, they would be required to use a Padlet board in their groups to source and post information that would be relevant to the weekly quiz. Most of this information would be given during class, therefore it is essential they are taking notes and sharing them amongst one another to locate precise sources for their upcoming tests. The use of the collaborative learning assessment promotes peer feedback, as they can evaluate each other's learning techniques and research abilities. To conclude, I wish to leave on a note from Fisher and Sugimoto. The power of the unaided individual mind is highly overrated. It is through this course, EDUC1050, and the exploration of ICT and how it can be used within classrooms that has made this statement unarguably apparent. Although my suggestions for my ideal classroom may appear well constructed, I acknowledge that I am a lifelong learner myself. As ICT advances and changes every single day, so do I as an educator. Thank you for listening.